Summit League football was almost a real thing. Details on an elaborate plan with the WAC. Plus, Matt Entz joins us on making his head coaching debut at Fresno State. Hot Mike starts now.
Hot Mike with Dom Izzo.
Really? Really, Dom?
No. I like what Dom's doing.
Okay.
Dom Izzo.
Jeez, come on, Dom. What do you think I am, a magician?
Yeah, I'm fired up, Dom. What else could I say?
Absolutely. It was great to get on the field, and then Dom came up to me, and I'm trying to walk away from me. I just wanted to enjoy myself out there.
Hot Mike.
Great job.
There's got to be some kind of intelligent question about something. Izzo.
Coach Dom Izzo, WDAY in Fargo, North Dakota.
Can you give me a layup or something?
Hot Mike. Presented by Northwestern Mutual.
That program is second to none.
On the networks of WDAY.
You know, if it's not about sports, I find it very hard to concentrate.
Here's Dom Izzo.
Good Thursday morning. Welcome to the It Almost Happened edition of Hot Mike on WDAY Extra. KSFL TV. Good morning, everybody in Sioux Falls. Tough morning for you guys. KMBN in Western South Dakota and Inforum.com. Happy Thursday, everybody. August the 21st. Closing in on the end of the work week here. Closing in on the start of football. High school guys kick off tomorrow. Excited about our program tomorrow on the show. Not to say I'm not excited about today's show because we have a lot going on. But tomorrow's show will really get you ready for opening day of high school football games in North Dakota, including a really neat deal going out in Mandan. We'll preview that coming up tomorrow. So, yes, we've got games happening. 9-man Class A will have their openers tomorrow. We've been previewing that for the last couple weeks. They've been only practicing for 2 weeks, and then they'll play football coming up tomorrow. Looking forward to that. We got a lot to get to. Finally, Summit League basketball coaches can rejoice because the schedule is out. I actually had 2 or 3 coaches text me over the last week saying, can you work on this? Like I have power to find out what's going on, when we're going to get our league schedules. Well, they came promptly. I think Eric was in studios. We were cleaning up at 11:01 yesterday. The email dinged, and we got the full conference schedules. We're going to dive into that with some intriguing dates. Yeah, we've got some mirror scheduling happening again. We've got more Wednesday games. We've got a couple of Sunday games and some doubleheaders as well, which we'll peel back that coming up later on in the show. You heard me right. Former Bison head coach Matt Entz will join us this morning from Fresno. His team plays Saturday, making his debut as head coach at Fresno State. They'll take on Kansas. Get the lowdown on what has happened out in Fresno. His starting quarterback is a really intriguing tie to Matt's hometown. That's coming up at 9:30. So looking forward to that conversation. And you heard me right. Story that came out yesterday that we were maybe closer to Summit League football than we ever thought. A topic that we've talked about quite a bit on this show. There's a story that the WAC and the Summit the WAC tried to persuade the Summit, the best way I can describe it, of making its own football league. We'll give you the full breakdown of that later on in the show. Now, first, I want to start with a full apology to fans of the Athletics that watch our show. I'm sure there's dozens. Because I did get an email yesterday saying that I disrespected both teams in our highlight read of the 2 minor league teams playing in a major league stadium. I'm not going to retract that. Between the Athletics and the Twins, played in front of apparently 20,000 people on Tuesday night. Because last night I watched the last 2 innings because the game was tied in the 9th inning. And all right, well, you got to watch now, even though we know neither team is going anywhere. If you don't know the name, and I don't think I did prior to maybe last week, of Shea Langoliers, Twins fans know him now because he has ripped apart the Twins pitching staff over the last 2 days at Target Field. Bailey Ober pitching yesterday and just okay. This ball crushed to the deepest part of the park. It ends up being a sac fly after Buxton caught it for Tyler Soderstrom to score, who was on base 4 times last night. They make it 1-0. Speaking of Soderstrom, there's one of the times he was on base. That ball's crushed. 426 feet, 2-0 Sacramento. Trevor Larnach would get the Twins on the board with this opposite field hit to left to score. James Outman, who was playing last night, he had a couple of hits. To think he might be part of the Twins' plans in 2026. Later, Brooks Lee, we know he's part of the plan, with an RBI double to center. Larnach hustling around would score. We got a tie-up game at 2 through 5 innings. Genesis Cabrera was pitching for the Twins. I don't know him either, folks, but that's Langoliers with an opposite field bomb, 400 feet, to put Oakland up 4-2 in the top of the 10th. Now remember, Twins get a base runner. They get him to third. Ryan Jeffers at the plate draws a walk. So, okay, the Twins have 2 on. Again, it doesn't matter the runner at first. All that matters is the runner at third to keep the game going. Eddie Julien at the plate, but he weakly grounds out to second. And the A's have taken the first 2 games of this series, 4-2 the final. You see there, the Twins have lost 7 of their last 9, and for the first time all season, Minnesota is now 10 games under 500, 58-68 on the season after the loss yesterday. So that is the low water mark of the season for Minnesota, and figure it's probably going to go worse than that. But win for the A's yesterday. They'll go for the sweep this afternoon, noon first pitch at Target Field to wrap up that series for Minnesota hits the road for the weekend. And we'll have more on the Twins with Corey Provis coming up on the show tomorrow. Now, I mentioned off the top when we did our greeting for our viewers in Sioux Falls, today is a rough morning for those that had been following the Little League World Series, and we have been following it as well, considering that was the team that knocked off the team from Fargo to make it to Williamsport. It was a great run. They stayed alive. They won on Tuesday night. Game they had to win. Elimination game. They had a weird schedule because Sioux Falls played on Thursday, had 3 full days off, was off Friday, Saturday, Sunday, played again Monday, lost that game to the team from Connecticut. They won on Tuesday to set up another winner-take-all game last night with South Carolina. And we're going to show you this simply for our friends in Sioux Falls. I don't even know what to say to you this morning because this was an absolute bonkers of a game last night. Let's pick it up. Remember, they play 6 innings, so we're already in extra innings. Maxon Snoozy, who's been a great player, will be a great player, comes up with a base hit. Run comes in to score. South Dakota goes up 3-1. Now it's 5-1, still in the 7th. Camden Tees comes up with a line drive, base hit. South Dakota gets 6 runs in the top of the 7th. They're up 7-1. South Carolina, though, would come back. That's a bases-loaded walk. Now it's 6-4. Preston Ware up at the plate. He walks. Now it's 6-5. And the bases are still loaded. Andrew Brogan at the plate. That's a walk. All right, now you're real in trouble. Here's Bogan at the plate with a chance to be the hero. Goes the opposite way. The dive just out of the reach in left field. South Carolina comes all the way back and beats the team from Sioux Falls 7-6. The reaction was both elation and devastation. That's the beauty of that event. And you can lament you want of these kids getting on television at an earlier age than maybe they should. But that was a fabulous game. You feel for the kids from Sioux Falls. They had up 6-1 going to the bottom of the 7th inning, and to see the South Carolina team score 6 runs to walk it off is an awfully bitter pill to swallow. And that will do it for them. They're eliminated from the World Series with that loss. So the team from South Carolina will play the team from Nevada later tonight. That's another elimination game to get to the U.S. Championship game on Saturday, which is a winner-take-all there to get to the actual championship game on Sunday. But salute to the kids from Sioux Falls. I imagine in one way or the other, we're going to hear about all of these guys in some variety of sports over the next handful of years. If there's anything I know from that first Fargo Little League team that made it to the championship game of the regional, there are now, I want to say, 7 or 8 Division I athletes that were on that team, led by Drew Rarick, who is pitching now at Oklahoma, who is the stud of that team. You didn't know them then in 2017. You know them now in 2025. So here we are in 2025. So book it. We're still hopefully doing this show in 2033. There's going to be some kids we're probably going to know off that Sioux Falls team. Tip of the hat to them on a great run down in Sioux Falls, or in Williamsport at the Little League World Series. Fun to watch, and I only saw the final score. I didn't see the highlights of it until after the game was done, and a bitter defeat to wrap things up there. We got a packed show coming up for you here. Excited about our guest lineup here on this Thursday. You heard me mention already who we have coming up off the top of the show. Our guest lineup is brought to you by Northwestern Mutual. Matt Entz will join us right off the hop at 9:35. Bright and early at 7:30 local time. They're getting ready for practice. As he told me earlier in the week, it gets to about 110 these days in the middle of the afternoon. So they're practicing in the morning. Get the lowdown on how these 8 months have gone. Got the job in December after being the linebackers coach at the University of Southern California last year. Trying to piece together a roster through the portal. I'm dying to know about how that experience went. Recruiting as well. Keeping the guys they did. And now the great experiment, because they leave the Mountain West Conference after this year, and they're bound for the Pac-12 in 2026. A lot going on. We'll try to tap into Matt for all of that coming up at 9:35. At 10 o'clock, our guy Sammy G will join us. Sam Goetzinger, give us the lowdown. He was up at Bison practice yesterday, and we're just over a week out from NDSU's season opener with the Citadel. Some last-minute position battles going on. We'll talk to Sam about that at 10. And then at 10:15, Mercer head football coach Mike Jacobs will join us, friend of the show. Told me when he was on last year, getting ready for the Bison game with Mercer, said, hey, I loved your show. Anytime you need me to come on again, I'm happy to do it. Well, they play in week 0, prime time, on Saturday night against UC Davis down in Montgomery, Alabama. We'll preview that with Coach Jacobs about his team, the number 1 favorite of the SoCon. We can try and get some intel on the Citadel. They're in the same league with Mercer. We'll ask him about that coming up at 10:15. That and much more, including Summit League football before we wrap up the show. So, a packed show coming up on this Thursday. We'll take our first break. We come back. The Summit League basketball schedules are out. We'll dive into that, who the Bison have coming in, non-conference-wise, conference-wise, the whole 9 yards. Glad you're joining us. Back on Hot Mic right after this. Welcome back, everybody. Thursday morning show off and rolling. Fresno State head football coach Matt Entz joins us at about 15 minutes time. I didn't mention this in the opening segment, so shame on me on that. Vikes made a move yesterday as well with the trading of Harrison Phillips, defensive tackle, to the Jets as we get near roster cutdown day, which will come next week, where the team's got to get down to 53. This is a guy, first off, really well-liked guy in the locker room, productive player that the Vikings decided to move on from. They traded into the Jets for 2 6th-round picks in 2026 and 2027. It's all the Vikes have are 6th-round picks. Minnesota will also send a 2027 7th-round pick to the Jets in the deal. Phillips was scheduled to make $7.5 million this season. The Vikings will pick up half of his salary while clearing $3.5 million of cap space for 2025. They save $7.5 million in cap space for 2026. He was the Vikes nominee for the Walter Payton Man of the Year in 2023. Started every game over the last 3 years. But the Vikes gave big money to Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave this offseason. According to the Star Tribune, it'll set them up to enter the 2025 with 3 defensive linemen counting for at least $6.5 million each against the cap this season. So that's I don't know if stunning is the right word, but certainly was eye-opening when the deal went down late yesterday afternoon that they made that move for a guy that was Kwesi's first, I think, free agent signing when he got the job in 2022, was getting Harrison Phillips to sign from Buffalo to come to play for the Vikings. And now he's going back to the AFC East for the Jets, who clearly, they already made another move yesterday to New York on their defensive line, so clearly Aaron Glenn's not thrilled about what was happening up front. Or Quinnen Williams is more hurt than we think, which is another story that only I care about. But on the Vikings side of it, if they're clearing some cap space, is this to make a move for a wide receiver? That's all I can think about. The Tom Pelissero report from the NFL Network said that the Vikes are scouring for veteran free agents. Does that mean Adam Thielen comes back? I think a lot of fire is around that with Carolina because the Vikes have no depth at wide receiver. They have Justin Jefferson, who looks like he's good to go, and he's ramped up back practicing. They know that Jordan Addison is out for the first 3 games of the season. And then after that, Jalen Naylor is hurt. We're not expecting him to play in the game tomorrow night to wrap up the preseason. And then you've got guys that can't catch the ball. Lucky Jackson has opportunities, has not been able to do it. So there could be some movement there. More from the Star Tribune on the trade. Phillips saw the benefits of depth in June, saying he imagined his snap counts would decline from his 2023 peak of 74%. That year, he became the first Vikings defensive tackle to play more than 70% of the team's snaps since Kevin Williams in 2012. His snap count was a more reasonable 60% last season. He said the Vikes young players would help Allen, Hargrave, and him. So that's a noticeable move for the Vikes to move on for a guy who's been a 3-year starter for him and not missed a game since coming in from Buffalo after the 2021 season. Kwesi's a madman. I'm sure he's going to make another move here. They have to a wide receiver between now and the opener, which is just over 2.5 weeks away for the Vikes in Chicago. All right, I teased it earlier in the show. I have in my hand, this is the Summit League basketball schedules that came out yet promptly right after we signed off the air. Appreciate that. We've been long waiting for them. As I look again, just as a overview before we'll dive into the Bison men and then the Bison women schedules, this is officially from the league. I'll read the email, and then you guys can analyze it as much as you want. For the second straight year, the league utilized a hybrid scheduling model for the men's and women's action that lessens mirror scheduling and maximizes travel efficiencies. All 9 teams play each other in home and away matchups that will be played over 4 different days of the week and include some doubleheaders once again. The first tilts, love that word, of the 16-game league slate will be played on the final day of 2025, with Omaha playing at Kansas City on the women's side and South Dakota playing at North Dakota State and Kansas City visiting Denver on the men's side. Can we stop there that we're playing games on New Year's Day and New Year's Eve? And I know this year the calendar, because Christmas falls, I believe, on a Thursday or a Friday this year, that you have opportunity to do that. New Year's Eve is a Wednesday. New Year's Day is a Thursday. That's a football day. I would hold if you could. Obviously, they didn't want to. Last year, we started after the first day. I think January 3rd was the opening day of league play. I'm not a fan of that because the students aren't here. Here's the men's schedule for North Dakota State. And having a rival like USD, and you're going to roll your eyes, well, USD and NDSU, they're not blood rivals. Yeah, but you know what? You don't want, if you're going to have a game there, then have it be Denver. Well, not anymore because Denver's got plenty of local ties. Have it be Kansas City. Have it be Omaha. I think Omaha was here over the weekend of Fresno last year. Not South Dakota. The Dakota Schools is a non-starter in my mind. After that, Oral Roberts is here on a Saturday on January 3. Of course, ORU with a new coach. The Bison then will go to Kansas City and Omaha after that for their first 2 road conference games. Then back home for a Wednesday night game with South Dakota State. Now, I have moderate quibble with this. I don't know if the students are back then yet either. And it's on a Wednesday, which is church night around town. I'm just going to say it, that people have obligations. I'm not a fan of that. That might be for television too. That might be a CBS Sports Network game that gets picked up. It wouldn't surprise me. Or that following Saturday. That's a heck of a back-to-back combo there. South Dakota State and St. Thomas, who I expect are going to be 1-2 in the preseason poll. I do. I think the Jacks will be picked high. St. Thomas certainly will be, knowing they're playoff eligible now. Then Bison will go on the road. First trip to Denver to face our guy Bergstrasser in Denver, and then to Tulsa. So they're done with Oral Roberts in a 3-week span. I'm not a fan of that either. They don't play ORU again for the rest of the season. Then they have the mini bye. They'll go to Vermilion on a Saturday to end the first half of league play. Then they come back home to get Denver and Omaha. A Valentine's Day massacre game up in Grand Forks. I say that in jest. But that Valentine's Day night, I imagine, Bison UND in Grand Forks. That should be fun. Then they go to Brookings after that. It's a heck of a 1-2 combo. We'll talk about that once we get rolling into the season. And then back home for Kansas City at St. Thomas, and then the finale on a Saturday on February the 28th against UND, and that's a doubleheader with the women. So that is the conference schedule for the Bison men. We've already updated you on the non-conference throughout the summer. There was one game I did not know on the schedule that got released yesterday, and this is a cool deal that ended up coming about. The Bison men will play at Drake on December the 13th, which is fantastic. That's, of course, Hendo is there. That's a Saturday. I'm sure we'll be up to our ears in football talk, but that should not be overlooked. Bison play at Drake in Des Moines. I got to text into our guy. I'm sure Dave will always get back to me. Are they coming back? Because I will tell you that right now. If Drake is coming back, that will be one of the best non-conference games we've had in a long time here. We've already reported on Southern Illinois. We's coming here. The other one is Cal State Northridge. They were here about 4 years ago. The Matadors. Bison have played out there. I know they were here. I think the first year we had our TV contract with them in 21. And then the other games we knew about. Bison will play a multi-team event down at Arkansas State. We reported on that. They're also in the Sun Bowl Invitational in El Paso right before Christmas. So that's the Bison men's schedule, and we'll have that in full up on our websites available at inforum.com to parse through that. But the one question I have to get from Dave is if Drake is coming back here. Now on the women's side, we've talked plenty about the non-conference there. We know Gonzaga is coming to Fargo. We know Tulane is coming to Fargo. The Bison women will they're going to Malibu, California to play Pepperdine, which I'm immediately jealous of, in December. They're not going cross-country like last year. You remember they went from they went to Alaska to South Carolina. They got none of that in the non-conference this year. This is how it breaks down for the conference, where they'll play New Year's Day at Oral Roberts. That will be intriguing. Of course, ORU with a brand new staff there. Kelsey Music took the Arkansas job, so they've got a brand new team and staff there. There may be some payback of the mind of the Bison, who got run over when they played in Tulsa at the end of last regular season. Then a trip to Denver. They come home for their home conference opener on January the 8th on a Thursday night against Kansas City, then Omaha. Of course, the Mavericks have a new coach there. Kansas City is always intriguing because the Bison always lose to Kansas City. So that will be an intriguing home opener to start conference play. Then you've got road trip to Brookings on a Wednesday night there. On January the 17th, they go that's a Saturday, that's a game down in Brookings. Back home for South Dakota after that, after a road trip to St. Thomas. Home games with Denver and ORU. Then the back half of the conference schedule with Kansas City and Omaha on the road. The important date there, look how the Bison end the regular season. Home for the Jackrabbits, home for UND. Be really interesting to see where the Bison sit in their league play when we get to the final 2 games of the regular season. Knowing full well the Jackrabbits haven't lost a league game in 3 years. And the Bison haven't beaten SDSU since 2011. Or 14, Either way, it's a decade-long streak. They haven't beat the Jacks. And then with Dennis Hutter now leading UND, really intrigued to see what they bring to the table. So that's the conference schedules for the Bison men and women. And we'll have plenty more time to dive into this as we get closer to basketball season. But they're now out there. You can start your planning. Also, just for those out there that did it last year, the Bison women are doing their day game again. That'll be against the University of Jamestown, I believe, in November the 10th. Will be an 11 a.m. tip-off at the Shack. We were up there last year. That was the season opener when they played Drake. All right, we'll break. We come back. He's waiting for us. Fresno State head coach, former Bison head coach, Matt Entz, taking over the Bulldogs and getting ready for Game 1 in Week 0. It's coming up on the other side of the break. Back on Hot Mic right after this. Welcome back, everybody. We're off and rolling here on a Thursday morning edition of Hot Mic. Much more on a potential Summit League football plan that was floated out that didn't get really too much traction. We'll do that coming up later on in the show. Pretty pumped to have our first guest here to start. We got Week 0 coming up in a couple of days. I remember talking to our first guest about Week 0 about 10 years ago. He just grinded his teeth at having to go to Missoula, Montana. This time he's going to Lawrence, Kansas to get ready for his head coaching debut at Fresno State. Former Bison head coach Matt Entz joins us to get our show rolling here on a Thursday. He didn't lose my number. He didn't give me the Aaron Rodgers treatment, so I appreciate that. Thanks for doing this, bud. How you been?
Been good. It's great to see you, Dom, and appreciate the opportunity to be on the show today.
All right, so here we go. Week 0. How early do you get going? Have you started like right after July 4th? When did you start practice?
It felt like it. Our first practice was July 22nd. We've been in fall camp, or we've been in preparation now for over almost a month. It required some unique adjustments to the schedule. We only had 7 weeks of summer workouts versus 8 that normally would be provided to you per NCAA rules. We got going really early, a couple days before Memorial Day in the month of May, just to try to catch up a little bit. But it's here. It's exciting. Trying to figure out kind of who we are and what we are. That's everyone needs to play that first game for an evaluation piece.
The challenge of doing this before everybody else. I remember talking to you about everything seemed rushed when the Grizz game where the Bison went to Missoula. Is it everything compacted because you're playing a week earlier?
Well, I think so. I think just in the calendar that college coaches live, the month of June is a rat race.
Yep.
I mean, your camps, you have your OVs, you have your own camps. You're trying to game plan maybe your first 3 non-conference opponents. There's everything. The minute that month's over, you try to give your coaches a minute to step away and to be dads and husbands and get that honey-do list done. But this summer, we had to come back even a week earlier just to get ramped up. And then you throw in first-year head football coach, first year of the staff. I think those two things compound one another and make it probably even a little bit more pressure-packed than normal.
I was talking about this before you came on, of just when you got the job, then trying to figure out who's going to be on the team, getting a team. Give us the lowdown of what we chatted a couple times that first 2 months. What was that like?
Well, when I got here late December, there was probably anywhere between 10 to 15, 16 guys that were in the portal from Fresno State. 5 of them came back, had opportunity to sit down, talk to them. And they were the right 5. 5 guys that we felt like could help us, guys that had multiple years of eligibility. Shoot, one of them's one of the top prospect corners in the country right now, and super excited to have him back. One of our tight ends back, but they just wanted to know what the vision was and what the approach was going to be moving forward. I will say this: the people in the Central Valley love Fresno State football, very similar to what you see up in the Red River Valley. Everyone loves the Bison, and there's a lot of similarities there. The month of January and or late December, we probably had 30 OVs, transfer OVs. We were a little bit atypical this year, not what we want to be long term, but we brought in 22, 23, either junior college and or 4-year transfers to help us. A lot of the junior college kids had only played 1 year at the junior college level. We call them super freshmen, with the idea they're going to have a 5th year at some point.
Yep.
The NCAA is going to give everyone 5 years, and we're banking on that, and we're going to take advantage of it too. But and then of course, we started spring ball extremely early because we wanted to have an opportunity. We knew early season, well, let's go early spring. So if we do get banged up, it gives us time to get healthy, get ready, but also let's find out who we are a little bit and kind of what our roster looks like. And so it's been go, as you can imagine, but that's just the nature of the college landscape and college football right now.
I saw you in Frisco, which was beyond wild that you were there. Chris Kleiman was there. Gene Taylor was there. Brent Vegan's there. It was like a just culmination of how we were chatting on the phone about this. Describe that, being dad in the stands at Toyota Stadium for that game in January.
Well, it was unbelievably fun to see so many familiar faces, families of young men that I either sat in their home, sat in the office with. I'm not going to lie, it was probably just as stressful being in the stands, and probably because it was the emotional ties that I had with every single kid on that football team. If there was 120 kids on the team, I probably had interaction with all 120 of them at some point and had a relationship with them. So, me wanting Kellen to have success and his teammates to have success, but also being personally invested in all those young men. I wanted to see them, finish the right way, and they did. And here just 3 weeks ago, I had dinner with Cam Miller, and I was in Las Vegas for the Mountain West conference conference meetings. And him and I were able to meet. This was right before OTAs were starting, and how fun was that just to hear, his perspective on things and making a move to the NFL. I've shared some text messages with a number of different Cordell yesterday with his injury. The two Bash brothers up in Seattle. I've talked to both of them, Gray and Jalen. And so just to continue to see those guys have tremendous success and doing it the right way, I couldn't be more excited.
How crazy is that? See that last week where the two of them are starting next to one another. They did that for you countless times here.
Yeah, well, when they drafted Gray, and when they, meaning Seattle, drafted Gray, if I were a betting man, I'd have bet that was going to be the case. Those two guys already have. Think of the just familiarity they have with one another. How it's almost unfair, the communication. Those guys are they know what each other's thinking before they have to say anything, and that's and just the continuity that left side of the line is probably creating. And then to see them have great success, they run for almost 120 yards in the first quarter in their last preseason game, and I got to believe both of those young men, because of how they're wired and the character they both have, are going to be fan favorites in Seattle for a long time.
I have to ask, for building your staff, there are a lot of familiar names from the Midwest. How important was that to keep the roots here, but also make sure you're tied in California, where you've tried to lay roots down over the last year plus?
Well, it was that along with recruiting in that first 4 weeks of getting this job, Dom, was it was a big undertaking but exciting. I tell everyone I could have filled the jobs within 24 hours of being named head football coach, but that wasn't the right thing to do. It was take my time, make sure we did the right thing. I retained 2 coaches from the previous staff. J.D. Williams, who was played with the Bills, that back during their Super Bowl time. And so was a tremendous first-round draft pick, great coach on the West Coast. John Baxter, who's been at Michigan, at USC, has been at Fresno State for 18 years. Two guys that have great inside knowledge of the community, of the university, and can give me kind of a heads up on, hey, these are the speed bumps that you're going to, that you'll see just at any institution. And then, being able to, go out and get Nick Benedetto, Josh Davis, Brian Ferentz, was awesome. You look at Nick's success he had at Northern Illinois, the number 4 ranked defense in the country last year. Josh did a tremendous job at University of South Dakota. And since his arrival, just their ascent from an offensive standpoint become much more difficult, improved dramatically as a football team, complementary football wins. And so we're trying to utilize some of these resources. We're in Chicago. We have 3 kids from Chicago on our football team. We're in the state of Nebraska. Omaha doesn't have a college football team right now. Yep. And so why wouldn't we get in there a little bit? And it's an easy Southwest flight to Fresno, California. You can leave your winter coats back in the Midwest and come out here and enjoy it. The coolest day is maybe 65 degrees.
Yeah, there you go. Have you tapped into the cradle of football in Waterloo, Iowa yet?
I have not. We do have 2 kids from the state of Iowa on our football team right now. So we do have, a little bit of Midwest feel. We have a young man from Minnesota, a couple from Wisconsin, and we'll continue to do that. We feel like that's an important area. We have so many great relationships, and what's exciting is high school coaches are responding. They're getting us names. They're hey, have you heard of this kid? Take a look at this kid, and so those relationships are paying dividends for us now.
In a ultimate moment that made me feel old, your starting quarterback is Kurt Warner's son, and EJ, which is wild. Tell us about him and why he won the job.
Well, EJ, of course, like you said, comes from a football family. His brother played at Kansas State for Coach Kleiman. Yep. I met Kurt years ago when I was an assistant coach at Northern Iowa, and we needed some experience. We needed some competitive edge in our quarterback room when I first got here. Just felt like we had talented kids, but unproven kids. And so needed to bring someone in who could elevate the competition, but also had some reps under their belt. And of course, EJ had. He had been at Temple, then at Rice. Rice made the offensive move to option football. That's not his cup of tea. I think he can help us in the quarterback run game a little bit, but has thrown for almost 9,000 yards in his collegiate career. During the first 14 days of fall camp, did a tremendous job of operating our offense and learning our offense, making appropriate plays. We tried to keep track of every metric that was out there, from completion percentage against pressure, completion percentage against zone, how was he in the red zone, all these things, just trying to make sure we had the numbers matched what we were seeing on the field, and and his command of the huddle. And again, I think some of that comes from experience too. We have actually 3 young men on our roster that I feel very comfortable with. That if we had to play any of them, we could win games. But EJ was the young man that elevated himself and did a great job and has continued to do a great job. And it's been fun to see how our team has galvanized around him here in a short amount of time.
I gotta ask, you've been a head coach before, so it's nothing new. But what do you emotions on Saturday night for you when you're on the sideline before kickoff? What do you think that's going to be now of a FBS job, head coach?
Well, one of the things, and it's funny, Boost, people that don't understand the value or the logo or the branding of North Dakota State will, I get that question a lot. What do you think about, oh, you're an FBS coach now? And I'm like, when I was at NDSU, we never talked about being FCS. Yep. We talked about being a mid-major program because we felt like we belonged in that conversation. And so I don't know if it'll be any more than what I ever felt when I was at North Dakota State. I'm super excited to be here. I'm excited about the young men that we have on this roster. We have a lot of work to do. As I said, we have gotten we're an unbelievably improved football team since January when I arrived, but I don't know what that means right now. I haven't coached in the Mountain West. I haven't really been a head coach on the West Coast. And so we're going to find out a lot about our group on Saturday, but we know this. We're going to continue to get better as the year unfolds.
And then you're going from there to the Pac-12. You're going to be a Pac-12 head coach next year.
Yeah, there's some that's exciting right now. The Pac-12 is growing. Trying to expand. Scheduling becomes a little bit unique right now because of the even numbers. What do we do with that eighth? Trying to find that eighth conference game. I got to believe there's still some shakeup out there in the world of college football and conference realignment, but that's exciting right now, and it's exciting because our AD and our president are both huge football fans. Continuing to elevate things from a facility standpoint, from a budgetary standpoint. Dom, you and I have talked about it till we're blue in the face. College athletics has changed more so in the last 6 years than it did in the previous 100. And if you stick your head in the sand, it's not going away. And so you need to find ways to work within the system, and that's what Garrett, our AD, has done. And he's done a tremendous job of elevating our revenue share. We call it recruit, retain, and develop. Because that's what it impacts exactly, are those three areas.
Couple minutes left here with Matt. We appreciate his time. I know McFeely bugged you this summer about his project he was working on the top 75 games, which you were involved in quite a bit of those. What was your pick? What did you go with number one?
Well, I got to believe it was probably the Iowa game.
Pretty good.
Was probably number one, just being an Iowa native, growing up about 40 minutes from Kinnick Stadium.
You were pretty emotional after that one. I remember that. No doubt.
It was, and I have great respect for the University of Iowa and Coach Ferentz there, and have a number of good friends that are on that staff. But just, growing up, having gone to the games, I think the other one that I mentioned, and it wasn't the win, but it was the experience, was probably the Target Field.
Yeah.
I felt like 40,000 fans, downtown Minneapolis. The Bison took over, and we just kind of flexed our muscles that day. And a lot of people took notice. I think
everybody took notice when Trey Lance hit a 60-yard bomb to Phoenix Sproles where he ran for a touchdown. I'm like, oh, you might have a quarterback there.
Yeah, that helped. Well, I remember there was a lot of we went through that process with Trey and Zeb that year too to figure out who was going to be our starting quarterback. And this young, uber talented kid from Marshall, Minnesota. All of a sudden now he's doing great things for the Chargers in the NFL.
Last thing, you've got a fireballer pitcher in your family. Connor, your youngest, is going to be playing Division I baseball. For a guy who was pitching here at West Fargo Cheyenne, now he's going to be playing out at Sac State.
Yeah, you're exactly right. He this summer he played at the Waterloo Bucks in the Northwood Leagues, which was exciting because that was my hometown. And so Grandma and Grandpa got to see him play.
That's awesome.
Family, my sister and everyone. About midsummer, as he was kind of wrapping up, Sac State started to have some conversations with him. And I actually, because it was the month of July, I got to go with him on the official visit. And it was great. The head coach at Sacramento State used to be the head coach at South Dakota State. So he knew where Fargo was. He knew where Fargo Cheyenne was. Had a relationship, knew people back in the Midwest. And it looked like he had kind of retained some of those relationships in the Midwest, knew the coaches at DMAC, which then, again, recruiting is all about continuity and knowing somebody. But he's up there right now, a little bit of preseason warm-up. He looked at their schedule and goes, Dad, we have an opportunity to hopefully, if I do well, I can pitch. They go down and play LSU this year.
Woo.
And I'm like, boy, long ways from Young Field in West Fargo, buddy. But good for you.
That's awesome. It's great to see you. I know you're getting crazy busy here, getting ready for the opener. Thanks so much for doing this. Good luck on Saturday, and we'll catch up during the season, all right?
You bet. Don, thank you. Hey, best of luck to the Bison, and best of luck to all the fans back in Fargo.
Thanks, Matt. Great to see you, bud. There he goes.
You bet. You take care. Thank you.
Matt Entz, head football coach at Fresno State. Bulldogs open up on Saturday night, 5:30 Central Time, as they'll take on Kansas to open up the 2025 season in Week 0. That's on Fox. We're overdue for a break. We'll get caught up here. We'll wrap up Hour 1. Back on Hot Mic on WDAY Extra, KSFL, KMBN, and Inforum.com right after this. All right, wrapping up our first hour. That was great stuff. We appreciate Matt Entz giving us a few minutes there. Head coach at Fresno State. He actually mentioned this to me when we were chatting earlier in the week on the Bison game with Montana State out in Las Vegas, because his first game at USC was in Vegas last year, and he was telling me it got crazy loud. They had 66,000 people there. Great environment. Obviously, you two major brands that were playing in that game, so we're not going to get that kind of crowd. I don't imagine so. Maybe it's different for the game we get there. Again, if we get 40, I think we're doing pretty well. But said it will be a great environment, and people really enjoy that, which I thought as well. We found out the game was going to happen. So there will be, I would imagine, more than a few interested observers of what happens with Fresno State here this year. I think for that, what Marty Brown is going to do at Miami this year, that opening couple weeks. So we got the Fresno game, what Gronowski does at Iowa. I think we have so many local angles to what's happening in FBS football this year. It's going to be really interesting to see how it goes, how Entz does at Fresno, how Jimmy Rogers does at Washington State, how Marty Brown does at the University of Miami, how Mark Gronowski does at the University of Iowa. I think that we have so many really interesting storylines to follow outside of what we're going to be covering on a day-to-day and week-to-week basis to see how this goes in quote-unquote big boy football. Some I think will do well. Others may struggle. You know, that's the intriguing part about moving up a division, and something we're going to be keeping our eyes on once it gets going. Miami, I think, has Notre Dame to start on the Sunday before Labor Day. So after the Bison game with the Citadel, we actually have that game, I believe, on WDAY on Sunday night, is Miami Notre Dame. You think there'll be some eyeballs on that one here in Fargo? Yeah, absolutely. Going to be fun to watch. We'll break. We come back. Sam Goetzinger will join us. He'll give us an update on what's going on at Bison Fall Camp as we are T-minus 9 days out from the Bison opener with the Citadel. Hot Mike, Hour 2. Mike Jacobs coming up as well. Mercer head football coach. We roll on after this.
This is Hot Mike. Hot Mike. On the networks of WDAY. Here's Dom Izzo.
Let's take a moment and talk about bunions. The original line read as this: bunions. You may have heard of them. That was my original line.
Hey, thank you, Dom. Johnny Cool Guys there with the sunglasses on.
That was off the dome.
To the west of
when
Illinois.
I'm looking on it, like west. I shouldn't say right and left. Is that Missouri?
That is Missouri.
Yes.
That
it's
is
underneath
Missouri.
Iowa.
Oh,
I'm getting good at this.
he's coming.
So we're going to like the bottom peninsula region.
Peninsula.
Okay, we're going to come back on the ETSU tailgate and then go to you. How am I going to go from a tailgate to bunions?
Okay, good deal.
Let's take a moment and talk about bunions.
It is a good deal. Oh, look at this.
Get it off the screen, Eric. Get it off the screen.
This is from our draft 2.5 years ago?
Yeah. That would have, was that the Anthony Richardson
That was
year?
you. We did the mock draft. That was 2023.
Yeah,
you
so
came in here. You got your Colts jersey on. You picked Anthony Richardson
did.
for the Colts that day. And how'd that work out for you?
The news of Daniel Jones this week hit pretty hard. I will say that was a devastating message to come out. It's
devastating. The Viking fans love it because now the Vikes get a pick out of this.
That's more devastating for me because now I got to hear every Vikings fan in this building and beyond talk about how great of a pick they're going to get because Daniel Jones is going to play 60-some-odd snaps this year.
So let's reset it. For those that aren't great Indianapolis Colts minds,
yes.
Anthony Richardson was drafted 4th overall in 2023 out of the University of Florida.
Yes.
How many games? He didn't play.
Like 15.
So he played less games than Trey Lance played at NDSU.
Man. Did he play like 4 in college? It wasn't very many. Or just last year or something like that. It wasn't very many. I think in total it was 15. But he was a glimmer of hope. He was a shining light of some optimism that was coming in at the quarterback position for the Colts. Because since Andrew Luck, list off the quarterbacks here. We've had.
I'm sorry, I'm not prepared. I should do this.
We've had Carson Wentz.
We had Jacoby.
24
Brissett,
games. 24 games, not 4 games. Jacoby Brissett, but I'll leave him out of this conversation for now.
Why not? He was good.
Matt Ryan, Carson Wentz, Phillip Rivers, Brian Hoyer.
Sam Ellinger?
Sam Ellinger was in there for a
Your
little
guy?
bit. You know what? I wrote it down. Scott Tolzien was in there for a second.
You want me to? I got the guys here. So
Matt
here we go.
Hasselbeck was there.
How do you work for the Packers?
Joe Flacco, Gardner Minshew. Now, if you take the bulk of those quarterbacks, you'll notice they all have
old?
something in common.
You forgot
They're old.
You forgot Josh Freeman started one game too. Former Viking great Josh Freeman.
That was awesome. Awesome. Love that.
He played one game for the Vikings too and was done.
I just don't understand what the idea is in the Colts front office where if a quarterback has some success 20 years ago, we should bring them in now at the end of their time and try to let's ride our futures on this guy. And that's exactly what they're doing with Daniel Jones. Shane Steichen, the head coach, and Chris Ballard.
Jobs on the line here?
Putting their futures in the hands of Daniel Jones, I would say.
Is it over for Richardson with the Colts?
No, I don't think it's completely over just yet. I think they got to give it a minute. I think they've come to the senses in which, Daniel Jones has some NFL experience. He can hopefully teach Anthony Richardson, give him another year. He's got to sit back there and learn. It feels like they've put him in timeout this year, just benching him.
For people that forget, remember he pulled himself out of a game.
Tapped out.
That was last year, right?
Up. Yep.
And that obviously did not go over well. He lost his starting job because of that.
Yes. And Joe Flacco came in to replace him last season for
I
that.
would only say that the Jets have laid the blueprint for pulling on quarterbacks early.
Yes.
Like
and it seems
Sam
like
Darnold,
we're
3
heading
years,
right down that
done.
road. We're heading right
Zach
down
Wilson,
that road.
3 years, done. You only had 2 years with him, and now
I think
I don't know.
I will be one of the first ones to say yes. We did throw him into the fire a little bit early. I don't think.
But if you draft a guy that high, that you have to play him. That's the way it works now. You don't sit a guy.
Exactly. You know what really ticked me off about this situation, and you're the one who brought it up to me, was Shane Steichen in the press conference after Daniel Jones was announced as the starter. A reporter asked, "Do you really think you can win with Daniel Jones?" And the correct answer is no. But Shane Steichen comes out and says, you know what? Back in 2022, he had a really good year with the Giants. And what that lead to? 3,200 yards and 15 touchdowns?
Hey,
that's our standard
He lit up the Vikings, I know
in
that. Or the Giants, and he lit up the...
in one playoff game. He hadn't done anything else in his NFL career.
He got Ed Donatel fired, I know, as defensive coordinator of the Vikes.
It's just, let's just tank. Let's just go over.
Well, you might anyway.
Let's restart. I like Chris Ballard. I'm indifferent on Shane Steichen. Let's see where they're at in the chopping block at the end of this year, but let's restart at the quarterback position. And he's got no talent to throw to. Tyler Warren is his top receiving.
You were just
threat.
glowing about Tyler Warren last week when you were on the show.
He hasn't played a game in the regular season in his NFL career. I'm gonna hype him up, but I'm gonna be a little optimistic on that.
I'm just going back since Peyton was done. Right? And you take out the luck years. Boy, there have been some doozies of quarterbacks.
We've been cursed.
Curtis Painter was there.
Mm-hmm.
Your guy, Dan Orlovsky, was there.
Don't remind me of that.
Kerry Collins started 3 games in 2011.
Yeah.
I have no recollection of that. You mentioned all the guys. Hasselbeck, Josh Freeman, Tolzien started a couple. Jacoby Brissett. Brian Hoyer, that is a laundry list of guys.
I think the one that I enjoyed watching was Jacoby Brissett because no one could get a 3rd and 2 better than Jacoby Brissett.
He's a good player.
And every other quarterback, it just hasn't worked out. I think the Dan Orlovsky, Curtis Painter year is brought up in my household every time I come home by my dad. He just still can't believe that happened. It was such a horrible year.
Well, with that. There's no easy transition, but you were at Bison Fan Day on Tuesday.
Yes,
and
I was.
I believe you were accosted by several fans about your segment on our program.
Yes. First of all, I will say the event was great at the Dome, couple hundred people there. Out of the couple hundred people, I had about 4 or 5 come up to me and immediately go to the bunions. So I'm glad that is making a return for the 2025 season.
We can't not have it. It's too good.
Yes.
Unless you somehow one-up it with an intro this year, that's staying. I
can't promise it, but I can promise you something will come out of my mouth that I wasn't expecting. So just be ready.
Save that liner. That's pretty good.
Just be ready for that. I did have one couple at Bison Fan Day come up to me, and we were chatting about bunions and that story. And the gentleman I was talking to, his wife came over, and he introduced me to his wife, and he said, "Hey, this is Sam. He has bunions." I was like, no, I don't. Let's make this clear. I do not have bunions. I'm good on that front. I said I can point you in the direction of people who can help you if you have bunions. So that's.
Oh my god.
So let's just get that out there. I don't have bunions. I've talked about bunions in the past, but I don't have them.
No. Oh, I'm crying.
So Fan Day was an
God.
experience. It was great all around, though. It was
So they have misinterpreted that, how your intro, to believe that you are afflicted with that, but obviously you are not.
I know.
But you know everything about them.
I
You
know-
can cure them.
I know all about them. I personally can't cure them. I can point you in the
But
right
people-
direction.
You can get people to
I
know
can
how to
point
do
you over to
that.
Sanford and say, "Hey, they got guys over there and gals that can figure it out for you."
Oh,
But
man.
I definitely can't. My
Totally
feet are,
derailed the whole segment
my,
here.
my
I'm
feet are
lost.
good. Yes. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about besides the Colts' struggles at quarterback and
I'm
bunions?
sorry. When you told me about it on Tuesday night, I didn't know it went that far into people that were. You know what? It's great that people watch. Thank you for watching
Absolutely.
our show. I love it.
I love it
You know?
every time because without
It's
fail,
the best.
I think every game we
Oh,
went
my
to
gosh.
after East Tennessee State, someone brought it up, and I love that. Keep it on. Keep bringing it on. Means you're watching.
Absolutely.
I'm a fan of it.
So we are officially 9 days out from the Bison opener.
Yep.
I'm just looking early at forecasts. I got an email sent to me yesterday.
Give me some good news. Is there going to be a hurricane there or something?
As far as we know, no.
I was talking to Bobby,
Mid-80s.
Bobby Pointer, Robert, one of our weather guys here, and
He goes by Bobby.
Yep, I've
On our
always
pro-
called him
on our-
Bobby.
on our program,
I've
he
always
goes by
called
Bobby.
him Bobby
Yep.
since we were in college
Yep.
together, and he told me that if you're going that way, be careful of the ocean. There's going to be some big waves.
Extended forecast says a high of 81 and low 69 with humidity of 40% for August 30th.
That's not
That's
bad,
okay.
right? I
I
don't
mean,
know.
we figured humidity, obviously.
I don't know anything about humidity. It was humid the other day, Monday.
Yeah,
Is that what
it
it
was
was?
gross.
And
Yep.
I went golfing that night, and oh man, I was drenched. So I was hoping the Citadel wouldn't be like that. So 40, I think, is an okay number.
Let me give a Storm Tracker app. We'll update this here.
But be careful of the ocean, apparently.
Knowing
It's supposed
full
to be
well, it's
pretty
at
wavy.
11 a.m. kickoff Central Time. Well, right now it's 84. It feels like 92. Humidity of 70%. That's not great.
I've been sweating in Fargo pretty.
So now they've changed it. It
just-
says showers,
Oh.
high of 82. That would be different if
So-
it's raining.
Okay, so I need an umbrella, is what you're saying?
Do you have a raincoat, anything like that? Poncho?
I'll have to start doing some digging. I have no idea. Is Charleston by the water?
Yes.
Okay. I have no idea.
You've not done any American history lessons at all? It was pretty pivotal part of
Fair.
the Revolutionary War.
Totally forgot about that. Holy cow. Okay.
You know, the English had it.
I forgot.
We took it back.
I didn't know that
It's kind
was
of a big
Charleston.
deal.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. There's a lot of
Yeah.
statues there about that, isn't there? Ugh.
You're getting there.
See, that's another thing. I didn't think
when we arrive
Yep.
next week, maybe you could spend some time with that.
We're going to the Historical Society, and you won't see me at all
if we
on
had more
Friday.
time, that would be so good. That would be such a. I would tell Stace right now, put it on Bi's history time with Sam.
I think we could do that,
would be
every town we
fantastic.
go to. Every
Oh,
town
my
we go
gosh.
to. Nashville,
Yeah. Thanks,
never been
Eric.
to
Yeah.
Nashville.
There's Charles. Is it by the water? Hello.
It's a peninsula. Wow. That's insane.
Oh man,
I'm looking forward to it.
I've totally derailed on what I was going to ask you about. What do you got for me on Bison football?
So we made it to practice yesterday. What do I got for you? A left guard, that position, there's still a slight battle. It sounds like Nate Tosted's in the front runner for that. But obviously the offensive line, they don't need to have anybody really set for those non-conference games. So you can rotate a couple of people around on there. But I'm thrown off, too. I apologize. Nate Tosted, I think you'll see plenty of him this year. Ryan Babbitt's also in the mix. I got the chance to talk to Elijah Wayne at practice yesterday. Told me that he added 25 pounds since he got here.
Yeah, I heard that.
That's
wild.
And he said it's good weight. It's
Yeah,
muscle.
yeah,
and,
yeah.
and he's quick. He told me he's quicker. He's strong, bigger, faster, stronger than he was in high school.
Which he just was there 2 months ago,
Yeah,
2.5 months ago.
So he told me that number 25 pounds. I'm like, oh my goodness. Because he's had to completely transform his body, and now he's a guy that can really get some significant time at the defensive tackles position behind Keenan, Wilson, Jackson Dutenheffer, Logan Larson. So excited about that.
Yeah.
DJ Scott, who we've mentioned the last couple of weeks, is becoming a front runner in that number 2 spot in the running backs. Miles Mitchell behind him. You're going to see a lot of Owen Johnson as well. So they look like they're in a good spot. I asked him, I asked him, does it feel like the team is, okay, let's just go play a game already? And he said, no, we can't get in that mindset yet. We have to focus. We have to focus on the little things and make sure we're sticking to our plan here going into that game. So they're not angsty yet. They're getting their licks in at fall camp, and we'll be up there tomorrow.
Yeah, and their Tim Polisic press conference opener is on Tuesday.
Yes.
I think we'll get, I want to say 74, 75 guys are probably going to make the trip. So there's going to be a bunch of guys that go, and if the game goes the way they hope, there's going to be an opportunity for a lot of these guys to play.
Absolutely. And that's going to be exciting.
It'd be interesting
It's
to
a
see
really, really intriguing freshman
the dress
class.
rehearsal for some of these. Obviously, it's a game, it counts.
Yep.
But for some that, all right, is this more, hey, it's a 4-game deal, or it's beyond that, like a Donovan Willen last year or
Right.
Will Stile last year? Hey, you're gonna play. There's no more burning the red shirt. You're going to help us right away.
And this is big for the guys like Ryan Babbitts and Elijah Wayne and so on and so forth. The long list we mentioned,
Miles Mitchell, I think we already can assume
Miles,
he's going to play all the games.
But this is a big week because now they get to learn what a game week schedule is like. How do you prepare for this? How do you warm up before the game? What do you got to do to your body to get ready for this game? That's what they stressed to me yesterday, that they're excited about, and they're taking in everything they can from the upperclassmen. How do I do this on a game day? And we're going to see that, obviously through the beginning portion of the season here, but it's going to be an eye-opening moment for some people next week. That's no doubt.
All right, we got to roll. We got Mike Jacobs, the Mercer coach, coming on here.
Yeah,
so we have to cut your
stuck
segment.
me in between two great
Sorry,
coaches
we gotta
here
cut,
today.
Well, after you had a great story there, so there I don't know if we can top that. Great stuff as always, bud.
Absolutely.
And we'll talk to you later. We'll see you next week.
We'll see you on the preview show.
Sam Goetzinger joining us, of course. Don't forget that. Well, let's throw that graphic up. Don't forget, we've got our Bison football preview show, our second one that'll air on Sunday night, 10:35, right after the news on WDAY. If you missed part one, that's available at inforum.com now. Kyle Emanuel joins Sam on that as well, so looking forward to that. All right, when we come back, Mike Jacobs, Mercer head football coach, back right after this. Welcome back, everybody. Hot Mike rolls on a busy Thursday morning. Really pumped to have our next guest on. I had a chance to interview him last December, getting ready for a playoff game up in Fargo, and now they're opening up the FCS season Saturday night in the FCS kickoff game against UC Davis, game in Montgomery, Alabama. Of course, this has become a tradition. North Dakota State played in this game a decade ago and in 2016. And now the Mercer Bears will get their opportunity. Their head football coach is Mike Jacobs, who's back with us on Hot Mike on a Thursday morning in anticipation of the opener on Saturday night. Coach Jacobs, it's great to see you, bud. How you been?
I've been great, Dom. Appreciate you having me back on.
So we were joking off air. So you're playing on August 23rd. Does that mean you started? When did you start camp? Like July 5th? How long have you been going here?
Super early. Shortly after the July 4th holiday is what it feels like. But yeah, about I think we reported on July 27th and then got rolling on the 28th. They limit the amount of practices you can have before the first game to 25. So. We'll utilize all that time, and we've had a good run at camp. We're about 3 weeks of camp, and we just started school here on Tuesday at Mercer, so our guys are first week of classes, first game, the whole shooting match in 1 week here. But we're ready to roll.
When did you find out that you got selected for this game, and how big a deal is it that your team got picked to play in this spotlight game?
Yeah, it was shortly after. I don't even remember, to be honest with you. They had started talking to me that they had reached out to our athletic department because we had played in it in 2023 prior to me getting here. Mercer played in North Alabama. And so, they were interested in having us again, obviously with our success, and they were looking for, a game that maybe wouldn't be against teams that had played very often or at all. And so, I think anytime you got an opportunity to play on national television and put, not just our football program and our athletic department, but Mercer University on the national stage, I think it's a no-brainer. And then to be able to do it and play in a huge game like we're going to play in against UC Davis is pretty cool.
This is no easing into the season. This is a top 10 opponent you're playing. describe that with the preparation. It's not like you're playing a non-conference game, and it doesn't. And I know it's a non-conference one, but this is a top 10 non-conference opponent you got.
Yeah, we're not just sticking our toes in the water. We're cannonball into this 25 season, and so listen. I think the one thing it does immediately is it captures your players' attention, right? Like you can't. There is not room for some of the things that sometimes normally happen, where you can kind of ease into a season, or like we have to be on it, and we're playing a highly disciplined team that's physical. It's got a bunch of they got a good core returning starters. They've done a nice job in the portal. And so, we have to be ready to go, and we have to be in more than midseason form if we want to be successful.
We talked about it, the game that ended your season last year up here on ABC. What did that do exposure-wise, not just for the football team? I'll ask for the football team, but also for the school. Did you get the kind of bounce out of that you were hoping for?
I think so. I think we have our biggest admissions class that we've ever had in terms of students here at Mercer, or close to it. And, I just think, again, as folks become more aware of what we're doing outside of the Southeast region, and, it's twice now in back-to-back years where we've gone up to the Dakotas and not, unfortunately not had the success we wanted, but you see the incremental improvement. And, that's we want to be a national program, and you have to play in games like that on national television against uncommon opponents. And, we're getting to do it again right now, right off the bat. And, we want to do that. We want to be a national program, and we look forward to these types of opportunities.
To see what you've seen the last couple of years, knowing full well, is that like, all right, I know exactly what we have to get to. If we want to be in the conversation, this is what we've got to reach to?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think you just, it makes you keenly aware of the line of scrimmage. To me, like that's the greatest difference. I thought, probably defensively with a little more veteran crew last year. I think even if you talk to some of those Bison guys, like we're pretty darn good on defense. And I think we were capable of competing for a national championship. And it wasn't that we were bad on offense. We just knew we had a little bit further to go as we transitioned out of some of the body types that the previous staff was looking for. And, we looked to get bigger and stronger on the offensive line in particular. And so that's still been an area of emphasis for us.
Well, you got to be good, because I'm looking at the guys that transferred out, and there's a couple that went to the SEC. Your starting quarterback went to Oklahoma. So you must have had some pretty good players last year, which is unfortunately what happens when you're a team at this level, that the big boys are going to come calling.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, I mean, yes, unfortunately, and in today's day and age, like it means we're attracting the right kids, and more importantly, we're developing them once they're here. And I'd love to have a finder's fee of some sort, but like get a little bit of scratch for our time. But good for those kids and their opportunities, and, financially, I mean, we do well for the FCS level. Like we're not competitive. We're highly competitive. But some of those, Virginia Tech, Oklahoma, Georgia Tech, like they got deeper pockets than we do, and they provide unique and opportunities for our kids. And, we wish them all the best, but it's our job now to not just dive into the portal, but continue to recruit high-end high school kids. I think that's the one thing with the portal is there's the availability of higher-end high school kids is increasing, in my opinion, because more and more of the Power Fours are trying to take the ready-made guy from either G5 or high-end FCS schools such as us.
When those conversations happen with a guy, do they come and talk to you, a guy that's going to move on, or is that something that there's little to no interaction?
Yeah, I've seen a little bit of both. I mean, to me, we encourage it. Listen, like, I'd rather be open and honest about what's going on than be surprised by anything or be slinking around the background. Again, I've mentioned it on a few of these things, man. I'm all for kids having an opportunity to transfer if it's not working out, right? Like that happens in life. I'd like there be some sort of limit. I'm all for them getting paid. The thing that's bothersome to me really is the advent of these, quote unquote agents that are working on these guys behind the scenes. And it may be kids that are perfectly happy where they're at and content with what they got going on. And in some cases, it works out really well. In other cases, guys go somewhere and they don't play a down, and I don't know that that's always what's best for them. And what those people don't know about your kids is where they're maybe at academically in terms of progress towards the degree, and that's some of the great unknown. And so like that piece of it's a little bothersome for me. Not that we're not willing to work. I mean, that's where we're at in life, but people slinking around the background and doing things behind, cloak and dagger. That's not what I'm looking for. I'd rather you come in and have an honest conversation, and then we'll go from there. I'd rather advise you so you can end up in the best situation, and that's the approach you have to take if you care about the kids.
I'm interested. We talked before the game. You got the Fargo Dome experience. What was it? Did it live up to what you thought when you came up here last December?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a coach's kid, man. So I've been blessed to be around a lot of places and to have seen it on television a bunch and just know what that program has accomplished over the years. I think that those guys, that's a one-on-one fan base. That's a one-on-one unique experience. And, I'd love for Five Star to recreate that. I think we struggled to compete a little bit more with some competition in terms of, a lot of Georgia Bulldogs in the state of Georgia that watch those games and go to those games up in Athens. But certainly unique experience. Certainly, I hope those fans understand how good the product is, that a couple of different coaches between Coach Entz and what Coach is doing there right now, like those guys have put great product on the field and obviously have had a ton of success.
You have a trip to Auburn this year. Can you describe that and the anticipation for your fan base of to end the regular season? That's the last game of playing at Auburn.
Yeah, we were at Alabama last year, and I do think it's great, like in the sense that the Big Ten's kind of gotten away from it. Ohio State always used to at least play some MAC schools or Youngstown State, and you don't see that as much in the Big Ten, and the SECs and the ACC for that matter have still kept some of these Southern schools in the mix, and it's good fiscally for our athletic department. It's good for our program to be on the national stage. It's good for our kids to have an opportunity to compete, because the reality is, like, a lot of them growing up, they wanted to play in the SEC, and so that affords them the opportunity, and we look forward to it. I'd love for it not to be the last week of the season, but that's where the scheduling gods have us.
That's pretty neat, though, for your players. Alabama and Auburn, especially from where you recruit, that's got to be monstrous for you guys.
Yeah, it's massive, and to go out there and try to compete and just play our best football.
You and NDSU have something similar because you're both playing at the Citadel this year. The Bison are opening there next week. What do you know? What can you tell us about Coach Drayton and what kind of what team the Bison may be seeing a week from now?
Yeah, I have a ton of respect for what Coach Drayton's done. I think he's built that thing the right way. That's a very unique situation with the military school aspect of it, and they've become competitive in a hurry with him at the helm. They're going to play elite special teams. That's his background in the NFL and at high level of college football. And both of their specialists, really all three, the snapper and the kicker and the punter, are all some of the best in our conference. And they have tremendous game day atmosphere with kind of the pomp and circumstance, and it should be a really cool place to play, and you're going to get a good opponent who's disciplined and well coached.
We're going to get the Bison to Macon here anytime. Can you make that happen?
I don't know. I'd rather they can return the favor when it's nice and hot. I'll give it to them then, right? If we got to come north in December, then yeah, they owe us one in August.
Hey, let's go. Sign me up for that. Your league also just added Tennessee Tech. What do you make of going and adding another school in that part of the world? How good is that for the SoCon going forward?
Yeah, I think I give our commissioner quite a bit of credit. I'd rather be proactive in today's day and age in terms of moving the conference forward and adding quality members. They fit our geographic region. They're a school that if you just look at what they're doing, they're committed to football at a high level. They're competitive in the conference they've been playing in. Coach Wilder's done a great job building out the program at Old Dominion when he started that program, and then he's quickly turned them around. And so, we're getting a really quality football team that was on the cusp of the playoffs last year. So anytime you can add that in your geographic footprint, I think it's a great thing.
This was so good. Thanks so much for doing this. You got a bunch of fans up here. Good luck on Saturday night, and we'll be following throughout the year, okay?
You bet. Travel safe down to Charleston. Good luck.
Thanks, Coach. Mike Jacobs, head coach of the Mercer Bears, joining us. Mercer plays on Saturday night against UC Davis, 6 o'clock on ESPN. Of course, Mercer ended its season last year to North Dakota State in the FCS quarterfinals. Again, I'm just looking at the guys that Mercer lost. Their starting quarterback, Whit Neubauer, transferred. He went to Oklahoma. Again, let me just make that again. Couple of their standout defensive linemen. One went Virginia Tech. Another went to Georgia Tech. Another guy went to Ole Miss. They had dudes, and that's, unfortunately, they ran into the same problem that everybody good in the FCS has experienced now. Mercer's now one of those teams we're going to regularly see, I imagine, in the top 8 every year, that bigger schools are going to want your players. Appreciate his time. All right, we're way overdue. Let's get caught up here. We come back. In my hands, this is it. The Summit WAC potential football plan that didn't come to pass. We'll chat about that. We come back after this. Welcome back, everybody. Quick moving Thursday show. That's some fun stuff there. Thanks to Coach Jacobs for giving us a few minutes. As we were in break here, North Dakota State has announced its football captains for 2025. A couple of them are expected. Couple are different, maybe eye-opening, depending on some. We'll run through the list. Cole Payton, no surprise there. Cam Miller told me last year when we were at Media Day that if he would vote for Cole Payton to be a captain, that was on the 24 team. You just see it in Cole. There's a leadership quality there. It doesn't have to have your starting quarterback be a captain, but it certainly doesn't hurt. Bryce Lance named a captain. You're going to see in our Bison football preview show that comes up on Sunday night, we talk to Bryce about leadership role, and that's something his leadership is done by his play, not necessarily a rah-rah guy. That's something he's gotten used to or trying to develop. Chris Harris is on there. And we've had Chris on the show, and he has one of the ultimate stories on this football team. Walk-on kid from El Paso, military kid that his mom never saw play a game until last year for the first time. Earned his scholarship this time last year during fall camp. Really emotional time there. He shared it. If you missed it, you can go back and podcast that in our app. It's fantastic. He shared the story about that. And now he's a captain. Logan Kopp, no doubt about it. He's already been a captain and will fit that role well, again, as the leader of the Bison defense. Jackson Dutenheffer, and we've had Jackson on the show several times. He's one of the all-time great interviews. He's just a Bison. It's hard to describe that, just that when he announced his commitment, he was the first to commit for the class of 2021. With all these guys, they came in outside of Staling. They all came in together. And he just had that in him. Played a bit as a redshirt freshman, and he's hoping for a big 2025. And then Nathaniel Staling on there. And Staling's a guy that doesn't – he always kind of grimaces when I go to talk to him. I don't know if he maybe doesn't like me or just doesn't want to be interviewed. Could be both. Or it could be the first one. Wouldn't be the first guy. That he doesn't – when he does talk, though, it's impactful. And, again, he's a former quarterback as well from his time in high school at Brainerd. And he's going to wear the green dot. For those that don't know that now, with the helmet communication is allowed. We're going to much more on that coming up next week as we get ready for the first game. That Grant Olson will be talking. All the calls will be go through the middle linebacker. Staling is the starting middle linebacker. So that's the captains for the Bison football team for 2025. Again, no surprises for a couple, and a couple that maybe are different that we weren't expecting. Okay, I saved it for the final segment of the show here. that in my hand, for those that are watching on TV, on the podcast, I have literally a PowerPoint presentation. Shout out to Hero Sports. They did the heavy lifting on this, of a Summit League WAC partnership that was discussed. And we all know, I railed on the Summit on this, that they maybe missed the boat. They didn't add any schools. When the WAC collapsed, they went with the United Athletic Conference, and the Summit was left out holding the bag. They didn't get anybody. And evidently, there was a proposal to have the Summit League and the WAC come together as the Valley and the Summit did anyway, but this would have been for Summit League football. And this is what it would have looked like, folks. You would have had UND, NDSU, USD, and South Dakota State, along with Abilene Christian, Southern Utah, Tarleton State, and Utah Tech. They would have come together under the Summit football umbrella. And this is the points that they established in it. It said, establish infrastructure of football-focused personnel to start up and operate conference operations, builds the Summit League as a national FCS football brand with traditional strong FCS programs with national brand recognition. I hate that word. Rising FCS programs with national aspirational vision. That would be Abilene and Tarleton. Expansion of national recruiting footprint. Hello, Texas. In two of the fastest growing markets in the country. Apparently Utah is as well, which makes sense. That goes back to our baseball expansion talk. They want it in Salt Lake City. Opportunity for negotiation of football-only media rights / television contract. That's interesting as well. Now, granted, the Missouri Valley Football Conference has a deal with ESPN for the next 6 years. Even gives the media market impact of who's on there for the Summit and the WAC. Now, the story goes into this that the WAC needed this more than the Summit did, and I will agree on that. But this didn't really get much traction, didn't get off the ground from what the reporting is, and we can tell you that. I think that how many times, Eric, when we went to Summit League Media Day or the Summit League tournament, I asked Josh Fenton about Summit League football. It was, I think, every time. And it didn't seem like it was getting a whole lot of traction there. I don't think the Dakota schools leaving the Missouri Valley Football Conference was something that anybody entertained. I think having them come into the Valley would have been way more palatable. And then you get them in Summit League basketball. If you're telling me, and again, Eric, you can bring up that graphic again when you have a sec. If you're telling me that Abilene and Tarleton are coming in for football, let's go with 2 O's. I was totally on board with that. The Southern Utah and Utah Tech, if I got to take them, okay. But if you're telling me we're going to get Abilene and Tarleton to come in the Valley for football, then let's go. And you're telling me we're going to add those for basketball, then our friends at Oral Roberts, our friends in Denver and Kansas City are suddenly pretty happy. And we know Southern Utah, Utah Tech is a doable travel partner. I would have liked that rather than the other way around. There's your map. I mean, we're talking right down I-29 here, folks, for the most part. That would have been A-okay. Instead, we're still stuck at 9 in the Summit, and I don't know how that changes. Now, Jeff Jackson, who's the new football commissioner of the Missouri Valley, told us in Sioux Falls when we asked him about this that if the Missouri Valley Conference, not the football conference, the Missouri Valley proper is looking at adding a member, and they have somebody that they want to add, they have football, then that they would automatically be in the MVFC as well. So that's something to keep your eyes on as well. Now, is the Valley looking to expand? I don't think so. You never know. They lost Dallas Baptist a couple years ago, and Dallas Baptist for baseball was great. They went to Conference USA. Now they're going to the Pac-12 to go play their baseball. And they're quite good at that. The league, though, the Missouri Valley is not what it was. in terms of basketball. It just isn't. With the loss of Creighton when they moved on to the Big East, I mean, they added Valpo. They added UIC. Who else did they add? Loyola, and they left for the A-10. And Loyola was really good before they went to the Final Four. They added Belmont and they added Murray. And they haven't been any good, frankly. The two Southern schools, Belmont's in Nashville, and we've been to Murray. They haven't really been any good in basketball yet. You have Drake, Bradley, UNI, Belmont, Illinois State, UIC, Murray State, Indiana State, SIU, Evansville, Valpo, and that's it. Remember, they lost Mo State because Mo State's now in Conference USA. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. They got an odd number. So something maybe, is Lindenwood out there? Lindenwood's by St. Louis. Are they any good in football? No. So I guess to put a finer point on it, it was an ambitious idea. It probably didn't have a lot of traction because I don't think the 4 Dakota schools wanted to leave to not play. And the travel on that for football, granted, it's once a week. I think they still like playing Northern Iowa and Illinois State. I don't know if anybody likes going to Murray or Indiana State, but those games, Southern, those are good games. I'd rather have seen them come here and then work it out. If it's a 14-team football conference, fine. The Big Sky is 16 now. The CAA is 28. You can make it work. All right, we're way overdue. Let's break. We come back. We're already done. We'll wrap things up. Get you ready we got a great Sports Thursday on tap, and we'll send you out the door. Hot Mic wraps right after this. All right, wrapping things up here on this Thursday. Tomorrow, Corey Provis will join us. We got a couple other fun guests, I think. I don't want to confirm it yet, but we're really trying hard to have a report from Ireland tomorrow. Kansas State, Iowa State. We know about 18 people in the game between the two teams. One of them can pick up the phone. That's what we're trying to figure out, but we're trying for that tomorrow. Of course, K-State, Iowa State plays Saturday morning to start the college football season in the game in Ireland. So we're working on that for tomorrow's show. Just got a couple other emails in before we do some what to watch. I wanted to read this one because it's a frequent viewer of our show, and I love it. Dom, good morning. Thanks for your visits this morning with coaches Entz and Jacobs. It adds an interest to getting ready for the new season. It's interesting to keep in touch with the former Bison coaches and players. There's always excitement in the anticipation of the new rendition of the Bison. Looking forward to your continued coverage of the NDSU season, as well as the local, statewide high school games. Thanks again to you and your staff for the great job in presenting us with great entertainment. It's much appreciated. Thank you for the email. Thanks for watching where you watch as well. It's not in our immediate viewing area, but that means a lot to me. So, and to our guys who make the show happen each and every day. So awesome stuff there. Let's see. A couple other things we can get into here. Dom, have you mentioned anything on the Lee Corso deal? Yeah, that show's tomorrow night. ESPN has a special on. Of course, Coach Corso has his last appearance on College Game Day next Saturday, which they're going to pull out all the stops on that. That, unfortunately, we're on the air at the same time, so that's certainly a DVR when I get back from Charleston to watch. But that should be a highly emotional day. Where are they again? Are they at? They're at Ohio State, right? Is that what they picked? Was the Texas-Ohio State game, right? Because that's where the mascot headgear began, was at Ohio State. So it seems fitting that that's where it'll end. I can't imagine that tradition goes on. You just can't see anybody else doing it. And if it is, it would be lame. So I hope it's done so then. All right, let's do some what to watch before we get out of here. What to watch is brought to us by Northwestern Mutual. Appreciate that. All right, Twins and A's coming up at noon on Twins TV. If you want some baseball in the middle of your day, Twins are trying to avoid a sweep at Target Field this afternoon. Jose Ureña starting again for the Twins. Patriots and Giants on Amazon Prime as we start the final week of the preseason. 7 o'clock tonight as Amazon begins another year of NFL. And the Tour Championship, the final event of the PGA season, gets going at noon on the Golf Channel. I appreciate all the emails on that. It's a no staggered start. Everybody starts the same. It's winner take all for that later today. Our thanks to Sam Goetzinger, to Matt Entz, and to Mike Jacobs. To miss any of the show, you can podcast it later today at inforum.com. You can watch a full replay on WDAY+. Thanks so much for spending part of your Thursday morning with us, everybody. Have a great day, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.